So I'm pleased to say that I finally caught up on House of the Dragon. And I know this video is coming very late, but I thought it was important for me to talk about a show that managed to do something that I wasn't expecting. Let's discuss. Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it! Do it!
So going into House of the Dragon, initially I had no expectations. I was actually very skeptical that they could recapture the magic that they lost with the final season of the original Game of Thrones. Turns out that I think a new creative team and a fresh perspective was exactly what the doctor ordered. Listen, if you were turned off for good by the final season of Game of Thrones, then I totally understand that. But something really interesting for me happened while watching House of the Dragon, because I allowed myself to just take it for what it is, and not let past mishaps affect how I judged this show.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot, it's serious!
And I think I had a much more enjoyable experience because of it. Now, I don't think House of the Dragon was as polished as early Game of Thrones seasons, but there were a lot of moments in this series that gave me those same feelings that I had watching the original Game of Thrones for the first time. Listen, I obviously cover and discuss a lot of really bad content on my channel. I think we are in the age of content being more important than actual storytelling. And yes, there is a difference.
But why?
But House of the Dragon to me told me a story, with great acting and great writing, and let's be honest, at a very basic level, that's all we're really looking for whenever we watch anything. And to all those people who criticize me saying that I want everything to be exactly like the source material, this show is proof that nothing could be further from the truth. It's been highly publicized how they made significant changes to the source material in order to create this show. And surprise, surprise, those changes really didn't bother me at all because they were actually very well done.
That makes sense.
They didn't come off as making changes just for the sake of making changes. And to me, that's the proper way to adapt something to the small or big screen. As for the story itself, this whole season was kind of predictably building to Rhaenyra's ascension to the throne, being challenged by those around her who want that power for themselves or their own family. This is typical Game of Thrones. We've seen this all before.
Whoopie fucking do. Hey, I'm impressed.
But good writing can make these familiar ideas seem fresh to an audience, and I really believe that's what happened here. We kind of even know where all of this is heading, and yet we are still interested to see how we get there. I've said this before, but sometimes it's more about how you tell a story rather than what the actual story is about. So we have a character like Viserys who is basically holding the entire realm together by simply existing.
I'm too old for this shit.
He was a good man, a good king, too good to be in this universe based on what we know about it. And almost immediately after he dies, this whole world goes into chaos. You have the Hightower crew desperately trying to get Viserys' and Alicent's son on the throne. But that's not as easy as it sounds in this show. In addition to trying to get different factions on board with this idea, you also have this added wrinkle of the new king, Aegon, not really wanting to be king. He doesn't want the responsibility, and he's kind of being a pain in the ass about it.
Stop being a bitch and come on!
I don't think they had to include that part of Aegon's character, but I'm glad that they did because that makes him a much more believable character. And it makes that moment where he is coronated that much more impactful as well. You kind of see that he's going to be a problem as ruler based on how he reacts to being worshipped by everyone. Power will go to a weak-minded individual's head very quickly. And then we have Rhaenyra on the flip side of this coin, who is off living her life on Dragonstone and getting knocked up by her uncle.
Just a sick world we're living in, sick people!
And she's learning about all of this, her father's death, the new king, all of it's coming to her secondhand. And she doesn't react in the overly emotional way that you would expect her to. Obviously, the first inclination is to be pissed off when you do not get what you are promised. But she kind of pumps the brakes and tries to think rationally about her next move. And her character gained a lot of respect from me in that moment. It was the first time all season that I actually thought she might make a good ruler.
Hail to the king, baby.
On top of all of this, she also has to deal with giving birth to a stillborn child. She is portrayed as one strong bitch in these final episodes, and I bought into it completely. Then we have Daemon, who is the more impulsive and reactionary character in this equation, and he instantly wants blood as expected. I was actually kind of shocked at the moment where he put hands on Rhaenyra because she didn't react to all of this in the way that he thought that she should. Basically, by her not taking action, it somehow damaged Daemon's ego. It also kind of puts a damper on the whole weird side of the fandom that actually enjoyed their relationship for some reason. Congrats, now we have incest and abuse. Great job, weirdos.
You disgust me. How can you live with yourself?
In an effort to understand where she stands as it pertains to the people who support her, Rhaenyra sends out her 2 illegitimate children, who are very obviously not Valyrian, as messengers to gauge Baratheon and Stark support for her. It's kind of interesting that the impending war hinges on those family names. So when her youngest son, Luke, arrives at the Baratheon stronghold, tension is already in the air, especially when it's revealed that Aemond is already there and has already made an offer to the Baratheons to gain support for his brother. Young Luke pretty much accepts defeat in these negotiations because he really doesn't have anything to offer.
You lose! Good day, sir!
And he even sidesteps Aemon's advances to try to get him to fight him. Little did we know that what happens next will probably change the course of this story forever. As young Luke rides off with his dragon back to his homeland, he is pursued by Aemond on a much larger dragon because Aemond is still holding on to some animosity because young Luke took his eye away from him. There's this really cool shot of Luke flying on his dragon, and it's taken from below, and you can see the sheer size of Aemond's dragon as he passes over him. And plus it's all cloudy and rainy, and it just added to the whole atmosphere of the scene.
I like it a lot.
It's pretty clear that Aemond, at the very least, only intended to scare young Luke. But when his massive dragon kinda goes rogue and kills Luke and his dragon, we already know that this is going to cause a shift in Rhaenyra's line of thinking. Up until that point, she has wanted to avoid war. She wanted to resolve things as peacefully as possible, as her father would have. And maybe even make amends with Alicent. But based on the final shot of this season, she had a different look in her eyes after her son's death. She had a very Daenerys look in her eyes. You know, the one where Daenerys went crazy and started torching King's Landing?
But you one crazy ass bitch!
Except in Rhaenyra's case, we actually buy into her feeling that way. Because we've seen the love she has for her children and how protective she is of them. And we know that extreme grief is a powerful motivator. It may even make you do things that you don't necessarily want to do. So essentially, it looks like next season we are going to war, and I'm here for it. The inaugural season of House of the Dragon had everything that I could ask for to get me reinvested in Game of Thrones. It has all the backstabbing and political maneuvering that you would expect, but in addition to that, I feel like it returned to the slow build format that made the original series so good. Even if I could have done without a lot of the time jumping, but even that wasn't enough to take me out of the show. House of the Dragon surprisingly restored my faith in Game of Thrones. Could they still ruin it? Absolutely, but as of right now, I'm enjoying the ride. That's why I'm giving Season 1 of House of the Dragon the pleased Palpatine.
Good.
Y'all be cool. Right on.